Here, watch it.
I said your dad is going to come in at 9:59.59. What's he doing? He's calling? What's wrong?
I guarantee you it's like something with his laptop or didn't answer. Not for the course.
Collin Chamberlin.
So
Coogan Chambers.
this would be fun. I just wanted to see if you were going to get on this podcast. I'm on, and we're waiting. We did say 10 o'clock. It's now 10:01.
Tell him to bring his Collin hair.
Yeah. So just wanted to see what was up. You know, if you were having a hard time logging in, you need me to come over and set the computer up.
Is it your sciatica again?
Let me know. All right. Hope to see you real soon. Love you.
What's acting up? Boom. Welcome to GrownDadBusiness. You guys, we are at episode 203. 203. I mix it up now. I have no idea. But hey, go check out some past episodes if you haven't listened. Episode 200 and 201, 2 parts with Bob Saget. Got Brad Williams. Last week, my friend Rob Ward, comedian from Cleveland. This episode is exciting. I can't. I'm already laughing. It was funny that my friends Collin Chamberlin and John Chamberlain, father and son. It's my first father and son kind of comedy duo out of Pittsburgh here. John Chamberlain, of course, created the YaJagoff comedy media blog, podcast, live shows, such cool stuff, connecting with Pittsburgh. Collin Chamberlin, this kid, I love this kid, man. Has opened for me so many times, been on the road with me, and watching this kid grow has been so much fun. So to get those two guys together and talking has been pretty rad. It was a good time. But you know, it's fun hearing John talk about moving his son to New York for comedy. That's like, as a dad, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's wild, you know? So it was really fun to talk about that. And just some funny stories. Collin's a funny storyteller. And, it was, I don't know what else to say. I love these guys so much. So it was fun to do that. So check it out. Check out the past episodes. Check out also the YaJagoff podcast. Collin started a new podcast called Hell Gigs, which is basically stand-up comedians telling stories of the worst gigs they've ever had. There's already been some great episodes Collin has had with Jimmy Schubert, Adam Ferrara, Tammy Pescatelli. So go check that out. Hell Gigs on iTunes and Spotify. But I want to give shout outs. I got to get shout outs and to all my friends like Ink Division, ink-division.com. You can get 15% off your first bulk order if you're an entertainer, a gig worker, musician, creative person. Go check out Ink Division at Ink Division or ink-division.com. Tell them Aaron sent you, and they're going to help you out on your first bulk order. Speaking of shirts and merch, GrownDadShirts.com. You can find the Woo Baby shirt, some Beastie Boys inspired shirts. My favorite TV dads, the GOAT dads of television, are on there, and some other funny dad shirts, parenting shirts, comedy shirts. And so go to GrownDadShirts.com. Created by Ink Division. They can also help you put together a online merch store. Pretty dope. But I would be remiss to mention the person that helped me create that merch is Kid Mental. You can hear his beats. KidMental.com at KidMentalMusic. He also has a dope Patreon, patreon.com/KidMental. He creates songs and beats and theme songs for people. So a big shout out to Kid Mental. Also, my exclusive musical guest on my Friday night live happy hour that I have on Facebook and YouTube every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can go back and watch those episodes on patreon.com/Aaron Kleiber. And you're like, what's patreon.com/Aaron Kleiber? Patreon.com/Aaron Kleiber is basically it's the exclusive group that you can support monthly. All the comedy that I'm putting out, podcasting and videos, and get exclusive content from the podcast, like a post show. There's a post show on there for the Bob Saget episode. You also get beats from Kid Mental, beats that I use in the show. You get exclusive access to stand-up clips, and you get mail. You get mail from me and my kids for real. Like, we make little cards. It's the cutest. So if you want to support your favorite creative artists, go to patreon.com/Aaron Kleiber and help out. And big shout out once again to Mary Mac, MaryMacPodcast.com. She has In the Kitchen with Mary Mac, and at Mary Mac Bakehouse, she sent me some incredible chicken rubs that I've used on the wings. I just used the anything rub on my shrimp skewers. Very good. So shout out to Mary Mac as well, who is also a Patreon supporter. Thank you so much, Mary Mac. And thank you, of course, Corey and Cheyenne, the GDB champs. And you can hear my kids screaming right now. The support is, you don't know what it means to me, because I'm just at home doing comedy. So your monthly support is helping me. It's literally like I'm doing a PBS commercial, because my wife and kids were here. We got no work. So Patreon is so amazing. It helps pay to keep the show running. It costs money to run the show, a couple different shows. So I appreciate you guys. And shout outs to everybody else supporting. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. It means the world. I also want to give a huge shout out to one of my new partners. I mentioned it before. I love CBD, medical, whatever. I love CBD products, especially I've been using Elixicure for a while, and I just found that there's a distribution site that has all your CBD needs. Now, if you don't know what CBD is, it's not the psychoactive THC that's in cannabis. Basically, it's hemp infused. So go to thehivedistro.com. Not only do they have the roll-on Elixicure for your joints, I use it for my arthritis on my joints. I put it on my wife's back. I mean, we love it. They also have a cream pump, which I prefer lavender, as I've said. But they have CBD tinctures, which are drops that can help people's anxiety and sleep. They have bath bombs. They have a CBD infused coffee. One of the things that I've been using, and my son has been using, that they have on thehivedistro.com is man butter. It's an organic body deodorant. I'm not kidding. By Dry Men Products, and I've been using it for a week. And my mom and my wife are like, "Ooh, you smell good." I didn't know it smelled nice, but on me, it's like surfers use. I don't know, man. I love it. It's very different than normal deodorant. It feels like a wax, but it's neat. My son has put it on his stinky feet. I have liked it. Woke up the next day, still not stinking. It's pretty amazing. It's magic. So you can check out all these products on thehivedistro.com, and you can get a discount. You get a 20% discount with coupon code GROWN, GROWN. Yeah, it's pretty rad. Also, you can get I got a coupon code for Grown Dad shirts. Go to GrownDadShirts.com, save 15% with the coupon code GDB15. I'll put that in the show notes so you guys know if you want to get hooked up. But I just want to give you those shout outs and thanks to everybody supporting the show, because that's how it keeps rolling. And back to Collin Chamberlin, my buddy, awaiting his dad's arrival on the podcast. Being such a dad is perfect. I love it. I love these guys. You guys be kind, be funny. Thanks for listening.
Granddad Business with Aaron Kleiber. That's my dad. Hello! Underpants? That is hilarious. You should mouth to rate and review this podcast, or my daddy will go into a deep depression. Going down business with Aaron Kleiber. Yeah.
So, what's going on over there?
Hey, buddy. You know what's funny is now podcasting now is just like a phone conversation with friends that you're just watching.
Yeah. At this point, it's like the only interaction I'm going to get.
Yeah.
Comedy related. So
I know.
I'm supposed to do a show on Saturday outdoors at 2 p.m.
Wow.
At a park.
In normal comedy, that's a blast.
Yeah, right. It's so funny because it's like everything has switched. Like it was like tight spaces, big crowds, packed in, low ceilings. Now it's like do it from home. Don't be near anyone.
The worst possible circumstances.
Yeah, right. Do it outside. I was talking to Picaro, and he did a show like in a parking lot in LA where everyone drives up in their car and surrounds you, and you go out and do stand-up.
He did it.
Yes.
I'm thinking about doing drive-in comedy this summer.
I mean, it's probably going to be the best option. I'm
thinking about doing it, and I'm going to get a little radio transmitter.
Yeah, and then it just transmits to the station.
To the radio. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to see how long we can keep your dad just sitting there because he's in now.
Oh, is he? Oh, good.
Yeah, he's in. I'm bringing in your dad. Your dad. Boom.
I had another shirt on and a hat because I thought maybe this is going to be some video. And I saw you guys with your hair. I'm like, nope, I'm taking
video.
All this off.
Oh, we're videoing, baby.
Oh, we're videoing?
You always wear a hat. What are you doing? Look, he is a corporate shill now. Look at him. John from YaJagoff with a Wahlburgers hat on. Look at you.
Well, everybody thinks it's testicles.
It really does. Now that you mention it, it looks like if the artist from Family Circus drew a set of balls. That's what that looks like. Colin's like, what? What? Collin, have you ever read Family Circus?
No.
It's in the Sunday Funnies.
Oh,
Collin, you called me?
Yeah, I called you and left you a voicemail to see where you were at, man.
Well, we were finishing up. We had a conference call with Natalie Bensavenga, and we were finishing up. So.
Oh, well, thank God to get that.
I'm recording. I brought you in, John. Don't say anything crazy.
Please. Well, let's have at it. I don't have. Listen, here's my thing. My laptop has the cord has a short in it, so I have Scotch tape all taped down to this desk so the laptop will not move. And here's my like handy dandy. Where's it? Here we go. There's my Scotch tape that I literally have taped my plug together because Microsoft hasn't sent me the plug yet. So.
Collin, your dad's here.
But things are going good.
So just so if people are watching and listening, when they do, maybe, I don't know. Yeah. I would like to introduce you, even though I'm going to do an intro, Collin, John Chamberlin, you guys. So it's funny. I don't even know where to start with you guys because I'm friends with you guys and I've slept in the same bed with Collin. So it's
so have I. So there you go.
We're Eskimo brothers, John. We've slept with the same man.
There you go.
That makes us papoose babies. I don't know what that is.
I don't even know what that is, but it sounds good. It makes a good T-shirt.
I need more coffee. No, I wanted to like podcast with you guys just because what people might not know is that the first time Collin did stand up was at a class at Arcade Comedy Theater with his dad.
Yes.
And as many hours as we spent on the road, I don't think I've ever asked Collin, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Because now as a comedian, for you to tell your comedian friends, like, well, I started a stand-up comedy class with my dad, but it worked out okay.
Right. Yeah. I mean, first of all, like people are like, yeah, I got drunk in an open mic and decided to go up, or like, it's like, how did you start? It's like, someone dared me. I bombed. It was like, have you done an 8-week course with your dad and that was your start into comedy? Have you ever done that? If you don't come out of that, like if you come out of that and love comedy, then then that's what you're supposed to do. But no one would fault you if you came out of that and said, not only do I never want to do stand-up comedy again, I'm not sure I want to be in the same house anymore. Like, I think that's how I knew it was a real test of how much I wanted to do it.
I remember like even I'm trying to think of it as prior to that or what the sequence was, but when Collin said he wanted to do comedy, I drove them out to the Pleasure Bar out there in Bloomfield, and we sat around and watched an open mic night. And when I think I drove him out maybe 2 or 3 more times, and then at one point he's like, "Yeah, you don't have to go anymore. We're good."
What was so funny is that you went to the Pleasure Bar to watch me host stand-up and then took a class with your dad, and you still are doing it. Like, you could have been scared.
Well, I remember that, like, at the time, Latitude 40, before they, the holes came out of that thing,
Yeah, and that was a place, if I can explain to people, was a comedy club, a concert venue, a steakhouse, a bowling alley, and a movie theater in one building.
Right.
And they had like 5 of them around the country. I performed at all of them.
Yeah.
All the same. And
they all had no business plan. They
had ideas.
15 things going on and no business plan, and apparently no savings account. And I remember when that opened, like, I would go there with my dad because he was emceeing.
Right.
And I would like hold the spotlight, and I just remember, like, I was like, "What is this? Like, this is wild." Like,
so you did see those shows before you did stand up?
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw those shows, and I remember thinking, like, man, if I could just be like, if I could have like 5 minutes before the opener, like that's all I would want.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I could be just the person that says, like, "Hey everyone, thanks for coming out," make one joke and leave. I think that would be just fine with me. Like, I just want to be a part
gotta
of
start
it.
small.
Yeah. I remember seeing like you and my dad and like Billy Elmer and who else? I think I saw Terry Jones there, and just thinking like, oh, this is like, I can't even believe people do this.
I think I thought the same thing. You guys know my life story, but even coming from like sketch and improv and a little acting, I saw stand up and I was like, yeah, no, never. There's no way I could write jokes and tell them and people laugh.
Yeah.
And get paid for it, right? A lot of people can write jokes and make people laugh. Those two don't always sync up. And then when they sync up for the third to get paid for it, that's awesome.
Stand up was stand up was the thing. When they were like, "Oh, you get $100," I was like, "What? Yeah, I'll do more."
But it's funny that even before, though, I saw stand up live for one Christmas, and this hasn't aged well, but my dad got me Bill Cosby's Himself on DVD. And I remember, I think I was in 5th or 6th grade, and I watched that, and I did his dentist bit at a school talent show. And it was like we had like 10 kids in my Catholic school grade, and it was for those 10 kids. And I'm doing like, "And the lip is down here," and they like doing the whole bit, and thinking like, when I saw that, like, that was like, we always had comedy on, but like when I saw Bill Cosby's Himself, again, this was before all the of all the pills and the pudding. But I was like, this is something amazing.
Well, it's crazy. Had I known we were going to go this direction, I would have given you a picture, and I'm holding it for, that big day whenever. But Collin was so quiet and so reserved in all of his Catholic grade school. And everybody just knew him just being quiet. And one day they were going to do this school performance, and he said he wanted to be a popcorn. He wanted to be popcorn.
Yeah.
So we made this
song about popcorn.
Yeah, we made.
So you want to be a popcorn kernel? That's a fun costume.
So we made this costume that made him look like popcorn, which was awesome, by the way, because I made it. But anyways, they started singing this song, and Quiet Collin came out, and it was in the church on the altar in the evening.
On the altar.
And he just started jumping around like this, like a popcorn kernel, and people were peeing their pants in the church. And you could see he got such a high from that. Like that was the point. He might have been addicted to it at that point. But everybody came up to him. People couldn't wait to take pictures of the kid in the popcorn kernel costume, and because it was hilarious. And you could see he was exhausted at that point of the night after jumping around for 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, because if you know his comedy, he was a morbidly obese toddler until he was 19 years old.
Yeah, and the popcorn costume, it was just tarp. We just took the tarp off the pool and put some styrofoam on top. But it was that is true. And I remember, Dad, I mean, you probably remember, like, it was actually supposed to be another kid that was going to do it. And at the last minute, he bailed. And I was like, I'll do it. And my dad will make the costume. And it's like one of those things you're like, the project's due tomorrow and we need a costume. So like all night he's just like hot gluing styrofoam to a t-shirt and like painting it yellow and brown. I mean, the production was really pretty good for like 24 hours.
We can even go back one more year, first grade. Collin had a first grade teacher that he would stand outside of he would cry because she was so loud. He would cry and not go into the classroom. But once he was in there, he was good. And one day I had to drop off something. Collin, you probably remember this better than me. Yeah. I had to drop off something at the school. And Collin went in and they asked about, was that your dad or whatever? And Collin said, that's my dad. He has gastrointestinal problems or something like that. He told them that I had bad stomach problems and had bad gas, and made a joke of that's the start of the jokes, maybe right there. Do you remember that part? Yeah.
I remember telling them it was Chi-Chi's. It was like he can't eat a Chi-Chi's because his stomach. And then my dad comes in and the teacher's like, we heard all about your stomach.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And and my dad, being the Ed McMahon that he is, really just went along with it for the bit. Like, the bit, thank God. But yeah, that was probably the first bit I ever did about family.
John, I got to ask you as a dad. It's so funny. I've never had this conversation with you guys, but now I'm like thinking so much about it, and it's kind of fascinating. Do you guys think it's like a neat thing? Like, John, look, Collin, don't look. Okay, listen. John, it's pretty neat that your son's becoming a pretty successful comedian.
It's totally cool. And I say that about,
because you've been dabbling in it for how long?
Yeah. And, when I think about, like, I loved it. I loved emceeing, comedy clubs when I was younger, and I just decided, well, I'm not good enough. I need to go figure out, get a job. And then, I always say, like, it's cool to see your kids, execute their dreams. Right. And so it's totally cool. And to see it, one of the biggest things, Aaron, as a parent, is when people come up and say nice things like, wow, your kid is really respectful. Wow, your kid this, your kid's a good dude. You never want somebody come and say, wow, your kid's a douche, Mm-hmm. And so when people give you those compliments,
they do.
Yeah. When people give you those compliments, it's such a thrill. But then to know that they're executing their dreams. At this point, I remember when we had this talk about him moving to New York City, there were so many regrets and, what do you call it? Buyer's remorse at some point, and look, you have built this up to do this. And who cares if you come home broke, because you're going to, who else has made this attempt? Right.
Yeah. Right.
It is fun to see it, but it's even more fun to see it and have people come up and say, wow, your son's a good guy too. So that's kind of cool.
Collin, that is good.
Yeah. Well, it's been a real team effort from getting me to, like he was saying, he drove me to open mics, and I don't know why. I got my license late. I was a real late bloomer in every aspect of life.
When did you get your license?
I think I got my license at 18 or 19.
What were you doing?
But I was in college when I took your class, so I did have a license. But I was the kind of person that for a while
over that fast, real fast.
I didn't know how to drive outside of my neighborhood. So he
still is a bad driver, quite frankly. If anybody's watching this and could drive Collin around, we would appreciate it. But I think part of it was, for me, is that I didn't know it, but I knew the stand-up comedy world, the open mics, and how people gather and network and stuff like that. Right. And I thought, my son wants to do this. I don't want to say, Jesus, God, stay in college, don't do dumb things. I wanted to encourage him. So I thought, well, let's get in the car and drive, and let's go sit and watch how this all works. And,
it was a good lesson in like I would say that like my sense of humor, like both of my parents were funny, and my sense of humor is actually probably like my mom is very reactionary. She makes a lot of faces. She's a lot of, oh, okay, that kind of thing. And I would say probably my sense of humor comes from that. But like the business.
I'm done with this interview.
Just relax. Okay? Just relax there, Chief Wahoo. So, but my dad was like that was, so I was funny, or I thought I was funny, but then it was like, oh, there's a whole business to this and a formula, and like you go to open mics. Like I had no idea that was even a thing. Even like when, like kind of as I started taking the class, I started to pick up, but like really it was more of like, my dad was like, this is how this works, like there's more than just like being goofy, right. And there's like a whole professional side of this.
Yeah.
I think we had a neighbor that contributed this too. Collin would go out to the bus stop and he'd kind of crack people up at the bus stop. And our one neighbor, Jim, would drive by and then he'd try to say something funny, and Collin would be able to top him. And he would see me, the neighbor would see me go, your son's funny. Like your son is nuts. And he'll repeat something he said, that he cracked him. He cracked me up today. He said this at the bus stop. Dude, I tried to bust his, whatever. And he says, hey, he cracked me up. So again, and maybe that's what we're headed back to, school bus stop comedy tours at this point, right? Because
yeah, right. Like outdoors.
People at a school bus stop.
Yeah. At this point.
Wow, I just killed the interview. I'll see you.
No.
Thanks. We're just all.
You're right.
We were just.
Aaron, as a dad, if your kid wanted to go into comedy, what would you do? Like, obviously, your frame of reference right now is a little different because of the pandemic. What would you do?
Hearing you say like the story about like the bus stop and the popcorn, I mean, my son has one of these every day, if not, like a couple times a week. I mean, now it's a point. And two, like my kids are growing up in the house of a professional comedian. So like, he can't, like, this is all we do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, and like, literally I have teachers like being like, oh yeah, your son said he's going to be a comedian. Like he wants to be a comedian. Like, I'm like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
I think it makes it like to see it, like when I saw someone, like you see it live, right? Like I remember seeing Jim Gaffigan as a kid and being amazing comedy and hearing comedy. But like when you see someone that do it, like when I saw like my dad MC, I was like, oh, people that I know do this. Like this is not just something that you could do. This is not just like this out of the world thing. So when you live with somebody that can do it, it makes it like this is like attainable,
Yeah, it's not a thing that stand-up is not a thing like where in middle school you find out that, oh, anybody can start a band. You know what I mean? Stand-up is literally like, unless you're really like looking for it. I mean, like the concept of open mic blows people's minds.
Right. It's a horrible, like people are like, when I hear comics be like, I just don't have fun at open mics. I'm like,
bye.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a bunch of sociopaths in a dark bar that don't like each other. Like we get along, but like we're all rooting against each other a little.
And can't afford a therapist.
Yeah, and so like we're all just putting our hatred out, and then like they're like, well, it's not very welcoming. It's like, of course it's not welcoming. We're performing for strangers who we are essentially ruining their night. Like they're like, they came out to like have dinner and watch a football game, and they're like, we're going to be right back at the game, folks. But first we have 20 criminally insane people to talk about how much they don't like their parents,
Yeah,
it's really in the jukebox. What are you doing? Why do you unplug it, right?
Oh, yeah. That was a thing.
God, yeah.
Turning off the music at the beer hive.
Yeah, right. People was like, what? I'm playing Wonderwall.
I just put in $2.
I'm trying to talk here.
Yeah. People are talking, they're drinking. So, you really, it's like you said, if it's not something that you would seek, And even if you are seeking it, it's not something that you're easily like attracted to.
Right.
You know.
Do you remember the conversation you guys had about taking class?
Yeah, I mean,
like, how did that happen? Because honestly, I think it was my first class I ever taught. I think
it was the first class. It was the first time Arcade was open for a class. It was Arcade had just opened.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember from my side, like expressing interest in it, and my dad sort of bringing this up, and he was like, "Hey, there's a comedy class. You should take it." And I just thought it was like anything else. Like if you want to learn how to paint, you take a painting class. If you want to learn how to speak French, you take a French class. So I just figured, well, this is how people learn comedy. So,
But John, wasn't it like a thing where he was interested in it and you were like, oh, really? Yeah. I mean, I'll do it with you. I mean, that's cool. Like, sure. Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, again, there's that thing like, well, it's like your kid who maybe wants to go play golf with you. Like, well, here's our moment where we can kind of hang out together.
Yeah.
And again, I sort of wanted to make sure that he got started in the right movement. In the meantime, it always intrigued me to be better at doing whatever, even in the stuff that I was doing, the class would be helpful. And I remember, what I really remember is like in the class, I'm not saying this because he's here, but everybody's like, your son is so funny. Your son is so funny.
Oh, yeah.
And then you did the consultations with 101. And, I thought I was funny. And you're like, yeah, John, here's what I'm going to need. I'm going to need you to change this. I'm going to need you to change that. Because I'm like, okay, so the good news, I'm not funny, and thank God I bagged it and got a real job.
I don't know nothing.
It's so funny, but it was. But the point I'm making is it was a good critical review of what it was, of what I was doing. Because I remember to this day, you said, I need you to get more personal. Like, stop telling jokes. Tell stories and things like that. And that actually has helped me even just in what we do now with the podcast.
Sure. And I want to, like, for the 200 open micers that listen to my podcast who are internally burning right now, like, because I don't talk about teaching stand up, a lot. Like not that I'm asking for your validation, but when I just real quick, because this is about you. But no, like I never got a chance to like address this in 200 episodes of a podcast. Because I'm like, why am I going to talk about teaching stand up? But like the thing is it was something that I figured that I could do because I've always been a student of like the basics of things.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to do something, like break it down easily, and I worked with kids for so many years that it was easy for me to break down things simply. And then I'm kind of mixed that with, acting and improv kind of teachings that I've had. And then just taking the actual leading counseling and small group sessions. And I just saw how that related to stand up in the way I thought it could be taught. And that's really just encouraging the things you already have, not teaching you how to like,
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Collin.
Go ahead, John.
No, I just say this, but it is what Collin said earlier. It's putting the little bit of the science behind the mechanisms and the operations, the process into it is what you taught in that class, and again, it made me compare, wow, what is kind of like old schlocky comedy, like, hey, how you doing, versus telling a story that's relatable, that
right.
People, my God, that's hilarious. So,
and there's still, and I would say there's always room for that. And I think just remembering about you, John, it was like it's almost just like seeing the strengths you have and saying like, well, you are a better storyteller than you are a jokey writer.
Mm-hmm.
You're a better talker than you are a joke writer.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's not like, this is how you do it. This is how you may be able to do it better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Thing, it's like, because one, it was in a very symbolic full circle thing. Like I ended up teaching that class. So for people that say, how could you teach a comedy class? First of all, any comic that is offered any job in comedy is going to take it. So for people that are like, you taught a class, like it's like, yeah, idiot, and you would too. Like, someone asked you to do something where you were doing comedy and talking about comedy, which is one of our favorite things to do, is just talk about comedy, and also have people ask you questions about comedy.
Yeah.
And they'll pay you for it. Of course you're going to do it.
And go ahead.
It brushes you up. You know what I mean? Like, it keeps you moving. And then for taking it, it's like, and you get you get whatever you get out of it. And I was fortunate to get, a good bit out of it. But if nothing else, it's somebody that you're essentially paying to force you to go to an open mic. It'd be like going and hiring a trainer to force you to work out. Because without that, I don't know if I would have gone to as many open mics in the beginning because it was so hard.
Yeah, and that was the key too, is just telling everybody to go to mics and then basically check in with your coach. That's all it was. I mean, I looked at it like because a coach, you don't need to teach people how to play hockey. Right.
You're just making sure they're staying up to date on things.
Yeah. And honestly, that, like, you're right. Doing the basics and kind of conceptualizing it and articulating it so much, just constantly in my head as I write, as I do comedy, it's always in my head. Like, it's my own advice is always in my head.
Isn't that the same in everything? Whether you're a pitcher, a golfer, a music writer, when you get that cramp, you're stuck, you're in a slump, you take yourself back to those basics. Let's start with step number 1, step number 2, word association, things like this to help you work your way through that. And same with guitar playing. I mean, you learn how to play the basic chords, and some people then extend beyond that, and some people don't. And so I look at that as the same. You learn the basics. From there, the basic operations and the little bit of the science behind it, and then you take it to another level.
Yeah. What did you guys ever want to do a duo?
I don't know. I think at one point Christy Nolan had asked if we wanted to do like a what was that, like, experimental show?
Why not?
Together. And
do you guys know each other? Yeah, you can do a 30-minute scene together. Come on.
Yeah. We never. I don't know. I don't think it ever.
I mean, we've had, Collin's been on the podcast.
Sure.
Collin's been on a live show at the Arcade Theater and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think we've ever done just the two of us doing anything.
It's just, it's funny that but it's kind of neat since Collin started and even YaJagoff is a thing. It's a big thing now. Like, you did that and you kind of found your lane of how you're funny. You know what I mean? You both did.
Yeah.
And what do you know? Now you talk as like a host and be funny.
Yeah. And it's I don't know. I always said if I won $1 million, one of the things I'd do is buy a radio station and hire myself as the morning show host. Right. So, So this is that. This is and people go through midlife crises and buy Mustangs. I, started a blog to complain about buses, and now I have a partner, and we have a marketing company and a blog and everything else going on now. So it's kind of cool.
I remember, if we're going to talk about how much people remember about my youth and all my little beginnings in show business, I remember when my dad, he was talking, he never talked about starting a blog to us as children, probably because he didn't want his children to think that he was becoming unstable, he didn't want his kids to worry, Dad's writing a blog, should be worried,
Also, your dad's writing a blog, what, in the late 90s? Weird.
Well, it was I'm trying to think, I think I was in college.
Oh, okay.
Because, or maybe the end of high school, college, was before I started stand-up. But
my dad has a blog.
Right, yeah. I'm oh God, if at that point blogs were where lonely people went, I feel to share their journal, So it was day number 4, Skittles is acting up again, and I don't know, Puddles won't eat her food. I thought it was going to be like that, weird. So he didn't tell us about it, and then he was getting an award or something, and then that's when he finally told us he was doing it. And forever it was just a blog. It was just a blog that like it was getting more traction. And it was like, not that we didn't take it seriously, but it was kind of like, it's like dad's working on a ham radio, you know?
Yeah,
like,
right.
Got to work on a blog tonight.
But then you had to say the sentence, my dad is an award-winning blogger.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was, I think the point where things really amped up and we took it seriously is like one day my sister and I get a text from my dad, like it's him and Garth Brooks, like hanging out. And I'm like, what? Like, what? First of all, did he get press credentials to do this? Like, you know, and at that point it was like, this is a real thing. And then it was talking about a podcast, when people listen to a podcast, what is a podcast, you know, and there we have where we are today, you know. Yeah. And then you know, and then from YaJagoff, it's you in the arm holding Martin Short in your arms. Right. Yeah.
So
can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah, it's listen, look, okay.
Listen.
You could not be not jealous and mad at that experience at all.
Aaron,
like when he told me that, I was like, fuck you, dude. Like I mean, you'll never forget that your entire life. That's
yeah.
And he didn't. Here's the thing: he didn't want to do it. He said no.
I'll kill you.
You know, we got a friend from a message from our friend Saul that said, "Hey, this is happening. They're looking for 2 people. I think you should do it." And I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool, whatever. So Collin was at the house. I said, hey, I think you should do this. He's like, no, don't be submitting my name to that thing. I'm like, are you sure?
Wait. So did you know you were going to work with Steve Martin and Martin Short?
I knew that's what it was, but it was one of those things where it was like, there's no way we're gonna get this, right? Like I just kind of figured that, like,
you know what? I'll give you that, because if someone said, "Oh, we have this opportunity with these guys," I'd be like, "This is gonna be bullshit."
Yeah, I was
like, it's gonna be a waste of time. I'm not even gonna barely meet them.
Yes, it was one of those things where I was like, I don't want to send pictures of myself and whatever, like to do nothing. This is like, it was very like almost like a teenager, like, no, Dad, this is stupid. You know, and I also
he sold me down the river at the end. He sold me down the river because, and it was great because, so he didn't want to do it. Then the guy, I said, he goes, all right, put my name, height, and weight in there. The guy sends us this package overnight of this costume that had to be worn. We both had to look like idiots and take pictures in the costume, send them back. And then there were 2 nights of the shows. And so we go all this back and forth. Collin gets the first night. Okay. He shows up the first night. And I go to see the show, and I'm like, "That's awesome, right?" And you're so proud. And so we had submitted for, you know, he's the first night and the second night. On the way home from the show that night, he goes, "Dad, I hate to tell you, but they want me to come back the second night. So boom, you're out."
Wait, so hold on. So people don't know what we're really talking about, I realized.
Right. So
explain what you did.
Yeah. So what happened was, Steve Martin and Martin Short, the show that's on Netflix, they were touring with that show, and they were doing 2 nights in Pittsburgh, the Byam or something like that. And there's a scene in the show. There's a bit in the show where Martin Short pretends to be a bagpipe, and somebody comes out dressed in a Scottish kilt and hat and holds him, and he puts his finger in their mouth, and he pretends to be a bagpipe. It's about a 30-second bit. And they were looking for somebody like to do this. So like we had, you know, through someone letting us know, we submit, we get in. So like I go and rehearse, and the rehearsal is just basically me standing in one spot for 3 hours waiting to be like called upon, you know, and I'm just so nervous to like get in the way that I didn't even take, I remember sweating through the jacket I brought because I was so nervous to take my winter jacket off inside that when I took it off to rehearse with Martin Short, I had water like under my armpits and like around my chest, and they were like, "Is everything good?" I was like, "Everything's good, yeah." So anyway, we rehearsed this bit, right? And they say, "Great, be here at this time." And I had tickets to the show. that night. So I go, I have tickets. They go, come back halfway through the show and put on your costume. And then you'll just watch the rest of the show from backstage. So like my dad said, I'm supposed to do the first night. He's supposed to do the second night. It's 30 seconds of work, right? So we and they comped us tickets too. So I gave 2 tickets to my dad for the first night, and I figured I would come and do the watch the show the second night when he's doing it. So do the thing, very cool, very fun, and at the end of the night, like I've taken off my costume, I'm giving it to the costume person for my dad tomorrow. Like Martin Short's assistant or whatever is like, hi, yes, and the producer of the plays or the show is also back there. They go, Marty doesn't want to rehearse with another person, and so we would like you to just do this again tomorrow. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, my dad is supposed to do this. And they're like, your dad? And I was like, yes, my dad. I'm like trying to explain to them what I just explained. Like, we had to send pictures. We had to take these pictures. We put these pictures in. My dad's going to do it. And they're like, well, we'll just give your dad, tickets for tomorrow. And but I'm sorry, like we'd really prefer if you would just do it because he doesn't want to rehearse again.
Right.
So like I did. I obviously, what are you going to do? Say no to Martin Short? Like, so I was like, all right, well, I'm going to call him and let him know. And he was, I was like, I don't know how to tell you this, right? Because this was
he was definitely sheepish.
This was basically our idols. But yeah, and then I ended up doing it the second night. But and it was
totally cool. I was so glad for him that it went so well. They got invited back to second night. I was fine, but it was just so funny that he's like, "Do not submit my name to that," and we did, and here's what happened.
Right. And it ended up being like the second night. My mom got to see it, and my younger sister, and like that was like the first time my younger sister saw anything like that. And then I'll never forget. Like I think my dad was out at a party or something, and I called him as soon as I left because as we're leaving, like I'm like, can I please get a picture? They're like, of course, we'll get a picture. And like I remember like Martin Short like hugs me and he's like, you did great. And I was like, I don't know what this means to me. Like I'm like
crazy.
Like I'm trying to tell him I do comedy. I'm like, I'm a comedy. And he's like, yes, yes, sure. And I was like, that was great. And he was like, you killed and you had no lines. How great is that? And I was like, it's great. And like, calling my dad and calling my friends and being like, this just happened. It just touched me. It was, you talked to me, that was obviously pretty crazy,
I just know that like you not being able to do it, John, still to watch that, your son do that. Like that's.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Again, as you'll come to know as your kids get older, it's those proud moments. You're like, wow, that is awesome. That's like part of the dream.
It's like it's a goofy thing too, where like my son is Jeffy in Pittsburgh Dad. And like is something as simple as that. It's like this little bit of joy where they're like, I'm like, it's my friends, but it's still like he can do it though.
Yeah.
Like he can do it. And even on that level, I can't fathom. I can't, like it's so much fun.
It was insane. It really was like because your nerves, it was the most nervous I've ever been for anything. And up to this point. And because you're like, first of all, it's the largest audience I'm ever going to be in front of. The light is so bright, and you are responsible for catching and holding Martin Short like a national treasure. God forbid I drop him or miss my mark or something. And then like I ruin it. I would ruin everything and possibly hurt Martin Short. So like I was like, I honestly couldn't wait till it was over. Like I was excited.
Right. Yes.
It was like, please just let this be over. Let this be over. And then when it's over, I'm just now I can finally like relax.
It's like when something like that, I think of the moments where you have that kind of like starstruck or nervousness, when you first do those couple big projects or something.
Yeah.
And it's like getting off a roller coaster.
Right.
Like you get off a ride and you're like, okay, that's done. Like that's done. It was amazing, but I can't process it right now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It doesn't even sink in until like after it all,
Yeah.
And you're like, what just happened?
I know.
So
I love that. I love that you guys had that moment. That's just
That was cool.
So now Collin moves to New York for comedy. Like now, like John, what it like now, like that's doing it. You're doing it now. Like
it's real. Yeah, it's real at that point. And again, he had worked, listen, Collin will admit he's not the hardest worker as far as cleaning his room or cleaning his car. But when it came to the comedy part of it, that he worked hard. He'd go out and work a real day job and then go do the nights, just like a lot of people do. And then when he saved money. And so like it was time to do this, and you could feel it was time to do it. From my heart, you could feel it was time to do it. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to go be a waiter in New York. Like there were some connections. You made the proper networking, and so it was time. It was time to do it. And how could you not do it at this point? Take the shot. And again, I'm sure I remember saying, who cares if you come back broke in 1 year? Who cares? Because in 12 months, you think of the experiences you will have had. And, in the meantime, he properly, saved some money. He properly networked to the right people to, at least to know this person that educated himself about moving up there. And I think it was completely overwhelming, quite frankly, because the first Saturday he was there, the place caught on fire where he lives. So who prepared you for that? But
it was so intense because everything about it. It was like from moving, trying to get a place there, trying to like figure out who I'm going to live with, being denied. I'll never forget going out there in May with Ray Zawadny and we saw maybe 12 apartments in one day. We had about 27 hours to be in New York, and probably.
That's right.
12 of those hours was to see what we thought was going to be our first apartment. And everyone just saying, you're not going to get this apartment. You don't have enough money. You don't have enough credit. What is wrong with you? What are you doing? And sitting like on the steps of Ray's buddy's apartment and like in his complex in the lower east side, and just being like, calling my dad and be like, we're never doing it. Like, this is just dumb that we even came out here. Like, it's 150 degrees. We've spent so much money trying to get here, trying to eat. Like, it's hot. It takes us forever. We were on a train for 2 hours. Like, just thinking, like, who do we think we are? Like, do this, and then like coming out again and again, and then like, we had moved. Like, my dad had moved. I was like sleeping on his floor, like to like. Not have to buy a place or get a place or get an apartment, and then the whole process of like loading everything. When we say like we moved to New York, it literally, we as in the two of us, put everything in his SUV, drove it one morning, like it was like September 1st, drove it out there, and then loaded everything up my 3-story walk-up apartment.
You couldn't put a toothpick in my car at that point. You could literally.
We got pulled over on the way to like the first hour into the drive. Like, it's already stressful enough, and then it's just like boop boop, and then like the sirens and the lights, and we got pulled over for something else. It was like registration or something. But like the car is packed to the brim. The guy's like, "Where are you headed?" We're like, "New York."
I'm moving my son to New York for showbiz.
Yeah, right.
That's exactly what it was.
The cop like, wow, well, good luck, buddy.
Like, can I see you anywhere? Have I seen you in anything? I was like, no, man. I'm just moving that. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
But then we had to move it all, and thank God my dad was there, because within minutes I was no help at all. Like, I'm like, in tears. I am hot. I am like, there's no one in my apartment. My other roommate wasn't there at the time. And like, I'm just trying to, he's like, just put together the bed frame. I mean, it's like 2 pieces. It should have taken me 10 minutes. And it like, I'm just like, nothing fits in this apartment. Like I'm a mess. And he's like lugging, everything I own up these stairs. Like he's going to have a heart attack. And I'm like, I don't know where to put this lamp. I'm going to have to throw this lamp out. Like just a total train wreck. Yeah, it was quite an experience,
But it was cool, Aaron. It was cool again. You knew it was time, and again, you have to take that leap. If he wanted to go to medical school, I'd have shipped him off to medical school. But this is different, and this is part of the process, as you know. And so this is that experience building part, and it was a cool moment. It was really.
Yeah, I always say I know Collin and I have said spending all that money at open mics and traveling to open mics and then moving to another city, doing open mics is it's like a 2 to 4 year degree.
Yeah.
And then that's like moving to a comedy city. That's like getting your master's.
Yeah.
And sometimes people try to get their master's before they even get their associate's degree.
Right. Yeah.
That's the way I always put it.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what it felt like for me, and it was cool because the first time, when my dad moves me in, we're eating, we get a piece of pizza, but I can't enjoy the moment, right? Because I'm just like, he's going to leave, and I'm going to be stuck in New York City.
Yeah, you're in New York City.
Right.
That's it.
But then it becomes fun because it's like it was after Thanksgiving. He drove me back, and I got to take him to the deli that I like, and it's now it's a cool thing because I do live here. I feel comfortable here. And it's it's really not that far. Within a day you can drive here, or in a couple hours you can fly here. And we're hanging out, we're eating sandwiches and stuff in the park. Because then it's cool. It's I live in New York. But when I moved there, it felt like I was playing poker with fake money. And then all of a sudden I went into the room and they were like, now the money counts. And you're like, what's up? And they were like, yeah, you can't just bid 100 million Monopoly dollars anymore. So now I'm everything is it's like playing paintball and then they give you guns.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. It was
I can't imagine
people die now.
I listen to so many comics who move by themselves, single by themselves. And just hearing those people say that, and I was thinking years ago, moving my wife and 2 kids to LA, I was just like, that feeling, I premonition that feeling.
Oh, it's horrible.
The feeling where we find a place, we're doing it, it's exciting, and then time to get to work. That feeling right there is when I would go, nope, I can't handle that. I can't. Yeah. Well, I would have a full blown.
It's one of those things breakdown. Where you don't have for me, I was obviously I was sad. I was nervous. I was like, what am I doing? But the next day you wake up, you're like, well, I'm here. If I do anything besides what I came here to do, I'm literally just wasting my own time and money. Right. Like if I'm not putting comedy first, from day one, why did I come out here? It's so hard that it's not worth it. You could live somewhere else and not have to worry about it and enjoy your life.
I remember talking to you about that a lot. Just if you're going to go there, you better do it. You better get to work.
There's literally people that go there and then they're I mean, obviously everybody has different circumstances.
Sure.
Some people have to work and stuff. And I was temping as much as I could and stuff like that. And my dad was helping me. And so it's there's different situations, but there are a lot of people that I know that are they move to New York for comedy. Within that first year or two, they get a job. And then they're well, work's pretty busy right now, but when work is over, I'm going to hit more mics. And it's but you could do this job literally anywhere else and make the same amount of money and you would get more for your money.
Yeah.
Let's say you're making $50,000 a year at this job. You're paying so much money.
Crazy.
Like if you went and did that in Des Moines, you would be like the king of Des Moines. Like you could own a very nice place.
Once again, I feel like it's the same as you move away to college and you're skipping classes.
Yeah, right.
You're paying for this.
Yeah.
You're paying for this.
Yes.
Go to college.
Yeah.
Right. No, it's 100% right.
If I knew a kid or even a friend that did that, well, I know some friends, but like, you know, I've yelled him. I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like, how did you move there and you're doing one show every 2 weeks? That's like, because someone who is kind of like, you know, I'm in Pittsburgh. That's what's happening. Right. You know, so to watch a comic, you know, do that. Like if Collin went and did that, I'd be like, dude, John, you guarantee. I'd be like, what the fuck,
for
dude?
Sure. I mean, if
you were wasting your time.
You know, if I told my dad I wasn't going to open mics, whatever, he would. I mean, you know,
and he gets it too.
He's kept trying to help me stay on the
right
path of like tunnel vision. You know, I mean, I remember missing a lot of things like when I was in Pittsburgh and obviously missing more before all this stuff. But like when I was in New York, like, you know, it was like, you're going to miss things and that's what you have to do. But it'll be worth it. And, you know, and thank God he was able to like talk me, you know, back.
He don't miss nothing. He don't miss nothing, John. He hasn't called me in months.
No, you know, and listen, Christmas is this big thing. Everybody that knows Collin is like, Christmas is his thing. And I said, look, there's a chance that you're not going to get home for Christmas or Thanksgiving or your birthday because you will hopefully be working. But if nothing else, you might not be able to get back here because you're here. You're here now, and it's going to be different. And you know, those are easy things to say and hear, but when they hit, then you have, you know, as a parent, you go, well, I know I'm going to get a phone call, but you know, he's sneaky like that. He's smart, you know, just like when he was in college, he knew how to figure out how to get home for the weekends. And, you know, he booked himself, you know, a club on his birthday. So he knew how to get home for his birthday.
Right. Yeah.
It's so funny. It's like, it's not great, but it is the truth. It's like, when you know what it's like to when you want to hang out with friends and stuff. Now I'm just like, hey, if you want to hang out with me, you have to come to this show because this is all.
We're gonna get tired of that.
Yeah, like if I'm home and now it's like I'm looking at the calendar. It's like, well, see, my sister's birthday is here, so I'm gonna maybe I'll try to book a weekend like within that 2 week span. Right. You know, you're like, oh, it's nice you're coming over for my birthday, but also I'm going to be featuring it, you know, somewhere driving distance to Pittsburgh.
I always tell people, like, you know, when you go out of town and, you know, someone lives, they might be listening, whatever, just listen carefully. Like, you know, someone will be like, oh, you're in town for a night. Let's go to dinner. Right. And Collin, you know, and John on the road, you're like, we're not going to go to dinner. Like, I'm in town for 40 hours. I'm not spending 4 of them at dinner with you. I'm sorry.
Like if you want to come, and even like if you want to come and hang out where I'm at after the show,
yes,
great. But before the show, forget it. Like
I'll meet you. I'll meet you after the first show, and we'll hang out and talk before the second show. No, we won't.
Yeah, that's
shit to do.
I'm coming to do a consulting job in Iowa, and they're like, "Well, let's hang out between 8 and 5." No, I have a job to do.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's insane. I do want to tell one story though before we wrap up, Aaron. I don't know how much time.
No, this is perfect. This is great.
Okay, so this was like, it's a real like when I talk to other comics that are like, yeah, my parents hate that I'm doing this. They want me to get a real job. Like, I guess that motivates them, but I don't work well off of like negative motivation. Like, but I'm like a Labrador retriever. Like, if you're not telling me I'm doing a good job,
I agree.
Treats, I'm going to I'm going to be depressed. I'm going to be a depressed dog. But so it was like, it really, how much of a team effort this has become. thankfully. And so I was in New York, and I was about to do the Carlson in Rochester.
Yep.
And I'm driving Ray, my roommate's car, and I'm on my way up there, and it's like a 6-hour drive, something like that. And like I'm in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and it's about 3 hours from Rochester, and I have plenty of time. It's noon, right? The show's at 8, so I got great time. I'm gonna go up there. I hadn't gotten a hotel yet,
Right.
because it's like, of course, like it's like, all right, we'll pay you this much with a hotel, this much without a hotel. You're like, forget that. Give me the money. I'll sleep in my car or something. I'll do anything to get that.
I've had that conversation with him.
$150, So it's noon. I'm driving Ray's car. All of a sudden, I hit like a piece of like rock or metal in the road, 2 flat tires. I'm on the side of the road in Wilkes-Barre. I call my dad. I'm like, I just got 2 flat tires. He's like, well, what are you calling me for? Call like a tow truck, right? Like, So I call a tow truck, and they're like, all right, we're going to pick you up. And I was like, okay, I'm going to need 2 tires. Like, no problem. We'll get you 2 tires. Tow truck comes. First of all, tow truck passes me. So now I'm waiting for the tow truck to come back. Tow truck comes, loads up the car. It's now like 1:30. I'm like, all right, even if this goes until 3, I got plenty of time, right? Tow truck dies. The tow truck the Ray's car is dead. Isn't starting. The driver's like, I don't know what to tell you. Tow truck is dead. Now we have to wait for another truck to come and get this tow truck my car. So it is just like a comedy of errors, right? So another truck comes,
Wasn't this your first like out of town gig when you moved from New York?
It was one of the first ones. It was the first time I'd ever done the Carlson, and it was like I usually was flying, right? Because it was like if I'm going to Tampa or Omaha,
and it's a brand new out of town club. You're like, oh my god,
club, right?
The first night I'm gonna be late,
right? So not to mention now I'm just looking 2 tires, $300, $400, whatever.
And this is the guy that gave you a hard time about paying for a hotel.
Right. So I'm like, all right, great. They get the car. They go, well, your rim is cracked. We can't fix this car. I was like, well, how long would it be to fix it? And they're like, hey, I mean, this is Thursday. They go, Monday?
Yeah.
Tuesday? So now I'm having to call every tire place in Wilkes-Barre. I'm in between calling my dad to update him on everything because I can't make any decision on my own, right? I'm like, they can't think of a thing. He's like, call another tire place. The other tire place doesn't have it. Call someone else. So I finally get a hold of a tire place. They go, we might have a rim. Bring the car here. Finally get the car there. It is now like 3 o'clock. And I'm like, I have an hour to hit this, get these 2 tires, get a rim. They get a rim. And I'm like looking at the time, like if I leave here by 4:22, it will take me exactly this long to go right to the club. I'll change in the car. So I don't end up leaving Wilkes-Barre until 5 o'clock, and I'm 3 hours and 20 minutes from the car. And the show is at, I think it was at 7:45 or 8 o'clock. It was like a Thursday show.
Right.
And,
this is when you're doing your comedy math. You're like, okay, if the show starts at 7:45, definitely won't start it then. Right. It'll probably start at about 8, and then the MC will probably do 11. And then, okay, so I need to be there at 8:15 at the latest. Yes, I'm doing all of the math, right? So, and again, I still do not have a hotel. So I'm driving like I just robbed a bank. And I'm flying up the highway. I'm calling friends and stuff like that. And eventually I just call my dad. And he's like, what's going on? I was like, and I think he could tell I'm ready to break down. Like we are on the edge of the cliff. The bungee cord is on the last string, right? It's like pulling apart. And all of a sudden I just lose it. I'm like, I wanted to drive to Pittsburgh. Like I was Ray will get his car another day and I'll drive to Pittsburgh. I'll get new stuff. And it was everything hitting at once. It was, I just spent $600 on tires. I'm going to be late for this show, my first show. I still don't have a hotel. On top of that,
I had just, not a lot of people know this, but I had just submitted to do James Corden, and they had rejected me. And it was like 24 hours ago, I was rejected by what I thought was going to be my first TV spot.
Right.
So I had submitted, I get rejected, have that. I'm like, I'm just tired of this all, right? I'm just like, I can't even see through the tears. I'm white knuckling it to Rochester. I'm like, I'm a danger now on the road. And thank God my dad like talked me through it. He's like, this is part of it. Like, this is going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You're going to get there. I ended up getting to the show at like, I mean, if it took me 3 hours and 20 minutes, it was supposed to get there. I got there in like 2:45. I mean, when I say I shaved more than 30 minutes off of that time, I thought there were going to just be cop cars behind me when I got to the, and like I'm going to be running and they're going to be shooting at me.
You were going to have an OJ trail.
Like, I've been in a white Bronco to the Carlson, and like they just get out there like, get him. But
and AJ Cowlings is in the back seat, aka Ray, going over your jokes with you.
Yeah, he's like, go.
Well, AJ was driving, but anyway.
Yeah, so I end up getting there. I do the show, and like, you know, and it really is, like I said, a team effort, because like my dad talks me through it. My girlfriend had gotten me a hotel before I even like realized. Like, she called me after, or texted me after. She's like, this is your hotel for the weekend. It's taken care of. You know, this gorgeous hotel she got me. And like, I like that night just sitting and like checking in with everybody after like you realize you've made it. I mean, it's
the best feeling.
That's like, if I didn't have those people, I might have been dead. Like, right. I might have just been like, I was like, forget it. I'll drive my car off the road. Like it's not worth it, you know? And it's just like, thank God somebody in the moment. I mean, you probably have been there before. Like, in the moment, you can't see anything else but what's happening, right? Yeah. You're so like one track minded of comedy, stand up, this next thing, next show. Forget next month. I'm talking about next weekend.
Yep.
And so to have somebody be like, this is a long game, right? And like, this is a real long con here, and we're just beginning to open the deck of cards. That like don't quit yet. You know, it was so like.
But I remember him saying, he's in Wilkes-Barre, and he said, I'm going to turn around and go back to New York City. And I said, wait a minute, you've lost $600 on the car already. You're going to make $800, whatever it's going to be, right?
Right.
If you go back to New York City, you lose $600. If you go to the gig and make it, you only lose. You gain $200, right? So
on those.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, he was like,
math, right?
Thank God, and he was, you know, because like I remember it ended up being a great weekend. Like, I sold all my merch, and like I was killing, and like thank God I went. But it really was like, I remember calling the club, and I was working with Tammy Pescatelli, calling the club and calling Tammy, and thank God Tammy too was like, come up, just come up. She's like, unless you don't want to do it, come up. Like, we'll figure it out. And they were really cool. Like, the host did extra time. Actually, this is insane. I get to the show in time. It felt very cool because I felt like I was like in the Rolling Stones, because like they had the side door, and they're like right this way, you know, and they bring me in right in, and like the owner waves at the MC. He's like pointing to me. So the MC goes, all right, guys, that's it for me. We got a very special person coming up here. She's very funny. Keep it going for your headliner, Tammy Pescatelli. They was like, woo! And I'm like, what? I drove all this way, and Tammy was cool enough to be like, Collin's here. And she's like, oh, but now you have to go on stage and be like, I know you guys were excited for the headliner. We got somebody else.
Yeah, not yet, you son of a bitches. Let's get this.
Right. So, but it ended up being great. And, you know, it's like one of those things, you're just so thankful that somebody in your life had like the clear head to like tell you not to even drive to Pittsburgh or drive back to New York, or just live in Wilkes-Barre. One of my options I thought was like, maybe I'll just live here now. Like, they'll keep the car and I'll live in this town and maybe work at this Meineke, you know? And so it was really, like I said, it's a team effort to keep this machine moving.
I always can admit that I am nothing without the people around you. So good thing you have a dad. Congrats.
Yeah.
No, it's just I've always wanted to have this conversation with you guys. I'm sorry it took over 200 episodes. But,
No, we didn't know if this podcast would stay. You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
We didn't want to jump in too early. We wanted to wait until you got your foot under you.
I mean, the podcast kind of didn't exist from like 70 to like 150, 170 episodes. So who knows?
Yeah.
People think I made up the number 200. They're like, so.
Yeah, I'm probably just going to start putting like 212 on my podcast episode. Like every
That's
week.
what Joe Rogan does. Joe Rogan's like episode 10,406. Wait, what? No, you guys, that's actually a perfect transition because I want to pimp you guys. Collin, you have a new podcast called Hell Gigs.
Yeah, Hell Gigs with Collin Chamberlin. It's on iTunes, it's Spotify and Google Play and whatever else. It's just 30, 40-minute conversation with comedians about their worst, craziest experiences.
My favorite episode so far, Jimmy Schubert. Jimmy Schubert is so damn funny. He's played every single. You could have a Hell Gigs podcast, just you asking Jimmy Schubert, and you'll have 100 episodes.
Yeah, yes, he's done everything as far as like between acting and stand up. He's done it all, like from being out of the country to playing. Like he's been every UPS driver, every cop, like every construction worker. Like he's perfect blue collar, extra.
And he's one of the guys that, not only crushes as a headliner, but has opened for everybody everywhere.
Right. Oh, I mean,
he's one of those guys that's like, well, in 77 when I was on tour with Schimmel or something, like, you're like, what?
Right.
Like,
I mean, he told the story. I think it was on this podcast. Because we did two, and there was like a bonus one, and he told the story about the night that he took Sam Kinison off stage on his motorcycle at the Comedy Store, and he was a young comic. He had a motorcycle. Someone was like, "I dare you to drive it in," and Kinison's on stage, and he drives in, and Schubert just goes, "Your ride's here," and Kinison's like, "Well, let's go, let's do it!" Right? So he jumps on the back and he drives him down the stairs of the Comedy Store and out on Sunset. And Shub was saying, he's like, I didn't realize Sam was deathly afraid of motorcycles. So, we drove down Sunset. He's, clutching on to me for dear life. And, he's like, keep going, keep going. So it's just it was
wow.
Crazy. Yeah, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And Jimmy was so cool to have.
Well, I've already signed up for episode 200. John, YaJagoff podcast. You followed instructions. You put at YaJagoff so you can find you at YaJagoff.
Oh.
Collin, just search Corgan Chamberbergs if you want to find Collin. At Collin Comedy. I know that.
Yeah. Yeah. Collin Comedy on the Twitter and the Gram and whatnot. The top.
You guys, I truly, when I say I love you guys, I love you guys. I do.
Well,
Collin, you're the man. Thanks, dude.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
John, you did good, bud.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again. We're very fortunate enough that the thing keeps rolling here, and I appreciate all the networks, and as I've told you before, I appreciate what you've done for Collin, and you certainly have helped him push himself. So that's awesome.
He don't care. He don't care. He's a good. Hey, listen, he doesn't give a shit. He don't care. What's that?
I don't even know what day it is at this point.
Sure. I will say that if I ever took anybody to do comedy with me on the road, I always say, it's a goofy thing. I always say, be kind, be funny, but really, from day one, I've told Collin that. You got to be a man of integrity. You got to have some sort of character, not only just being funny. And I would never work with anybody stay in hotel rooms with anybody that I couldn't trust on stage or off stage. So, that's a testament to you, Dad. So.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. That again, those are the kindest things somebody can say when you about your kids. You wonder what your legacy is as a parent. And when people say that, you'll find out at some point, Aaron. When people compliment you on your kids, it's the coolest thing anybody could ever say.
Yeah, I'm just looking for good kids to take on the road. That's it. Yeah. You guys, thanks, guys. You're the best.
Thank you, man. We appreciate it.
We did it.
Love you, Collin.
Love you, Dad.
Look at that.